The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be slain and be raised the third day. He said to them, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man advantaged if he gain the whole world and lose himself or be cast away? That element of losing oneself, in the Greek it's losing one's soul, echoing what the Hebrew would be, because the way of saying it in Hebrew is to lose one's soul. That's the reflexive way of doing it. Lose one's self, one's very self. If one goes into that mode, one actually is a loser. Already in this world, no matter what one has, apparently, if one is not, if one is already in darkness, one is not in joy. So that can extend to life afterwards, for there is a continuity. It's the same soul going on with its light or its darkness. And hence it is that the Lord warns that to have and to have nothing is a disaster. And many, so as to have, lose precisely their very self. And it can happen also with regard to the quality of our life, even in the service of the Lord. One can be thinking all the time, not about the Lord, but about many things which don't need actually our attention. One big one nowadays is virtual reality, as though gaining all the followers were some kind of gain, when actually to do so one is losing quality and intimacy with the Lord. The Lord warns, therefore, that even to have popularity, if one is ashamed of him, is not a gain. Whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed when he shall come in his own glory and in his Father's and of the holy angels. That's a cosmic vision of things, and it should teach us a lesson as regards being popular. And it can happen even in church life. One is not really courageous enough to go against the current. In the media, there is a norm, and we seem unable to go against it. We do not want to be put down. But I tell you of a truth, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. Now, with regard to the secret, the paradox of the gospel, it's to be looked at. Whosoever will save his, shall we say, soul, shall lose it. Whosoever will lose his soul for my sake, the same shall save it. Now, it goes also in the same vein as what he's warned about denying oneself, denying, therefore, one's gain. One abdicates. One then is free to receive and not command what should be coming. It is freedom, because one is in one's truth. And also one is free with regard to not being a slave of other people's opinions, or of being commanded by a false notion of success, Many condemn themselves to being unsatisfied and therefore unhappy because of a career that they have planned and must have. The soul that receives is far more happy, for all is a bonus. With regard to ruining oneself, one's deepest self, it can actually threaten us more than we think. One big one now is the fact that many, even in the Lord's service, have managed to do many things for the Lord, for instance in the hours of the night, for instance on a screen, but not to have time for quality intimacy with Him. And going through life in that mode is in some way to damage one's soul, to suffer loss. St. Benedict warns that what is not happening during the rest of the year in Lent must be put right. And so it is that we have a privileged time, lest we forfeit the quality of our soul and come to that ultimate disaster, that tragedy of which Pope Benedict used to speak. One can suffer the ultimate tragedy of failure of the soul, not only in this world, but for all eternity. There are dramatic people and exceptions. There are people like St. Norbert, who was having a brilliant career. He was in minor orders, which gave him access to a church career, but he wasn't taking the obligations seriously. And he was fulminated while on his horse. He found himself on the ground, physically, like St. Paul. But there, thinking that he was dying, he saw eternity and his state of soul. And he got up. And he went eventually to demand ordination, indeed to demand them all together. And he became a deacon and priest in the same day, and a great founder. Many have had an experience of encounter with the Lord when they could have gone the other way and had a brilliant career. They end up sometimes in very strict monasteries, on Mount Athos, or at La Trappe, or in the Carthusians, and they have a life of gratuitous praise and absence of glory, but their time is maximalized, for all is Godward bound. Lent is a time to choose, where is my time going? Am I giving enough to the Lord to have quality of soul? Is He Lord, or am I?